see, I need to mute Twitch. Oh, you've got a tiny little head. You're just barely peeking. You're like Kilroy. You're barely peeking above the bottom border. Nope. We need to see your coffee tureen to make sure you're okay. Wow. Oh, there you are. Kind of trying to figure out what sort of outfit Murphak is wearing on his Skype channel. Oh, you fixed the background screen. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, we've got a newcomer, Shiloh O'Brien. Do we know whether we're going to get a visit by Rawa on Twitch? Oh dear. Right. Okay.
Come join the party in the dust and the sand. Chip on your shoulder, sweat and dirt on your hands. Machines and slumbers start to lumber outside. Head for a number, see the colors collide. Search safest sanctuary, dropping them dollars on you, thank you very much. By the way, no refunds, back into the boneyard, badlands we run. I saw a siren singing, shifting through the shots, a ring and frying, burning.
How is my volume, everybody? My voice volume on Twitch? And Larry's voice volume, is that okay for everyone? Yeah, the birds are here. Thank you, though. He used to watch over the fire and the stone. Fan fiction told me that he died all alone. Splash, bang, so corrosive. Don't get close if it's explosive. Flash, gang, caustic crew, simmer and smoke in electric blue. If you can hear my budgies, you can probably hear me. Vicious, malicious, a voice we know. Soon to reap the seeds you sow. Bringing you the pain. Come on down and join the party tonight. We ain't the kind to turn away from a fight. Chips on the shoulder, sweat and dirt on our hands. 'Cause we're breaking down the border. Looks like we have a new tourist. Shiloh O'Brien, welcome. I don't see Mirabot online.
No.
Oh, okay. And Mirabot's not online either, not on Mula. But I know you're busy.
Yes, two other avatars online right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see 7 on my buddy list who are not here, but who don't attend regularly anyway. Well, it's only 9:40. Oh yeah, it's only 10:40 Cavern time. Oh, we have another new tourist. Stalin, welcome. Better make sure Stalin knows about Twitch.
Over the city soul pollutes our sons and daughters. You can fall asleep on sheets of gold and wake up as a pauper. We all get old, we all slow down as the walls they close. We fall, we're drowning. I need some breathing space. I won't grow old with grace. I need some breathing space. I can't keep living straight. Oh, we ain't gonna linger and wallow when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. Don't want no easy money. Oh no. Money couldn't buy me happiness.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Larry, but you're cutting out a bit, and people are saying they can't hear you.
To pay for a life of luxury. Oh, the air is thin, the smell, the smoke and the wear.
Yeah, even through Skype, you're cutting out a little for me.
I need some breathing space. I won't grow old with grace. I need some breathing.
And they're wondering what latency settings they should be setting on Twitch, but
None. In other words, they should be turning that off.
turn off the latency.
Yeah, if they're getting problems with the thing freezing up, turning off the latency will help.
Okay, now they can hear you.
I just selected the actual microphone instead of having it set on default.
Okay.
So, anyway,
Well, that's why we come in early.
yeah. Anyway, that's what. Richard had replied to me, by the way, about my musings about his religious beliefs. I don't think you'll be able to solve the puzzle with the information you have listed. It's more complicated than any of that, and it's a long story. And then he sent me a little PDF file called What and Why. Let me say it. The problem with using my specific terms as clues is that I try to keep my terms basic, like saying I live in Spokane instead of Chatteroy. Spokane is a major city that people are more likely to recognize even though it's 10 miles away, or saying I'm 50 when I really won't be until June. I'm very lazy. If I were to say Chatteroy, then they might ask where that is. Then I'd have to explain that it's a tiny place about 10 miles north of Spokane. Too many words. Spokane's close enough for most people in most situations. So I use church and service because they're terms people can recognize without having to explain all the details that don't really matter for most people in most situations. And then he quotes himself, Rawa 2020. I don't think you fully grasp the depths of my laziness. To be more specific, when I say it's a long story, I wrote a paper entitled What I Believe and Why in 1992. It's literally 11 pages long, and I'd have to add 4 or 5 pages if I were to rewrite What I Believe and Why today. Church and service are much shorter and easier. I was raised Baptist, conservative regular Baptist to be more specific, but again, Baptist is close enough. In 1992, I would have most closely fit into the Messianic Judaism category from the list that I gave him. There are 2 main branches of Messianic Judaism, the UMJC and the MJAA. I don't really fit into either of their groups. So Messianic to me is like Spokane versus Chatteroy, except I have no idea what the equivalent of Chatteroy is to Messianic. I'm somewhere out there on my own branch of heresy. It may not be a bullseye, but at least it's at least somewhere near the dartboard. Why does life have to be so complicated? And that's what he wrote to me.
Marfak, I assume you know that Mirabot's in the wrong place.
Right now, I want him to be in the Lincoln point for the age we're going to visit. We'll go to the other place by just issuing the bot individual commands to the bot.
Can't believe we've been doing tours for an entire year. Oh, somebody get Ethan some coffee.
My bug's already down more than halfway. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and kill the music, although it's just a little bit earlier than I normally would.
Woohoo, woohoo. Did Murphac woohoo?
Not me.
I heard a woohoo.
Oh.
Maybe that was in the cavern.
Speaking of Murphac.
Here.
Yep.
There he is.
So he's not just the bot today. Anyway, I've killed the music, so you may as well start making some announcements now.
Okay. Well, we got 8 minutes before we start, but is everyone, first and foremost, is everyone logged into Twitch TV/LWF58?
If they aren't, they won't hear it. Yeah, if they aren't, they won't hear you.
Right, exactly. That's why I have to follow this up with typing. Actually, I don't think you have to log in. You can just access the page. But if you want to post stream chat, you can create an account and log in. And you can also sign up for email notifications when Larry goes live. And the other important thing that I need to remind you is everyone needs to have MiroBot on their buddies list.
Poor Murrowbot. There was a time when he was one of many, and nowadays he's the last bot standing.
Well, I think Magic Yoda comes in from time to time.
No, he shut down his Mr. Magic shut down his server, so there are no more Magic bots.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Yeah, he did that last month. There was a time when there were...
La Rossiter had Lyrobot.
Yeah, Lyrocider. There were actually 8 bots active at one point or other. Stone is still around. However, he only ever uses his bots, and he has 2 of them. Either for Cavern Tours, and since we aren't doing the late-night Cavern Tours this season... the only other time he uses them is for special events when he might be helping somebody out. So the bot Stone was never a steady thing.
So the first, I'm not going to tell you where we're visiting, but in order to get there, we're going to be asking everyone to PM the word link, L-I-N-K,
No,
to Mirabot.
Not at first. Cancel that thought. We're actually going to be going to the city first, so we will be PMing the bot to city as the first thing.
Alrighty.
One other thing I do want to remind people is in the age that we will be visiting, there will be ladders and elevators and other choke points, and we request that you do not use them. When we need to go someplace, we will warp the entire group. So stay off of ladders, stay out of elevators, because those things can actually cause the game to crash when we have a large group in an age.
So when we use the to city command, we're going to be going to the public city, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The other important thing that I need to let you know of, we're going to large ages. So if you were to become separated from the group, you just PM the word find Larry or find CT or find Susan to Mirabot, and you'll be instantly linked to the person that you instruct the bot to find. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? We do have another 3 minutes, but does everyone have any questions?
And this is close enough, actually. I get there's no reason to hold up. Okay, in that case, everyone send a private message to the bot with the words "to city." Oops. And we are now going to walk over to the Kadish Gallery. Hello, Malum. And it just occurred to me that if there was anyone sitting here killing time, they probably got a very big surprise when this group warped in, or linked in.
There's 2 here in the hood. They're not responding to my instructions.
They can join us whenever.
Okay, so I'm going to join you as well.
Let's see, where am I going? Yes, Jero, we are going. We are making a door run. It's just not the set of doors that people normally mean when they say those words. In chat, Malum brought up the fact that I had my birthday this week. That was back on the 6th of January, and the entire nation celebrated by rioting and storming the Capitol building.
That's how they celebrate your birthday?
Apparently.
Oh dear. I'm afraid to ask how old you are.
Ro gave it away. In the stream chat, Malin says the reason for the riot was because they couldn't go to my birthday party. So if you look at the hair and the receding, the fact that there's not an awful lot left of it at the front of my head.
Okay, I think we have as many here as we're going to have.
Okay. So, as you might have guessed by this point, we're going to be talking about Guildmaster Kadish in this tour. This is going to be a tour of Kadish Tolesa, and I kind of subtitle what this tour has evolved into as the journey of Kadish on the last day of Denis. The first thing you need to know is that Guildmaster Kadish was a Denis man who lived in the time leading up to the fall of Denis in the year 9400 by their calendar. That was 1744 on the surface. His birth date is unknown. He was a member of the Guild of Writers who was dismissed for unknown reasons, but during his time in the guild, he was a talented writer and amassed a considerable fortune. After leaving the guild, he purchased the Great Tree Pub, an upper-class lounge located in the Chatairi district on Agra Island. He purchased this storefront on Agra's Canyon Mall, which he renovated as a museum of outsider artwork. And he also bought an industrial building in the let me get my tongue reeled back in so that I can control it. An industrial building in the Ashamin district, where he set up a testing station for an experiment in feeding the lake algae. The pub and museum thrived under his management and were very popular with Denis nobility and intelligentsia. Kadish was fascinated by the prophetic book called Words of the Watcher, and he wanted to be the grower, a person the Watcher had said would be able to control space and time. Kadish went through extraordinary lengths to prove that he was the grower. He wrote or purchased ages for the sole purpose of creating special effects to fulfill the conditions mentioned in the book. Some of the ages we know that he owned were Annonay, the Annonay Cathedral, a part of the Age of Urkana. By the way, Urkana was a granary age, and he bought a processing plant in it from the Guild of Caterers. In Annonay, he constructed a massive machine to give his guests the illusion of traveling through time. These ages were intended to fill one paragraph of words which said, "The grower will take time. The grower will bring light. The grower will have ages. Take time and move it to and fro. Bring light and give it to the dark places. Have ages and link to them without bindings." Annonay was intended to show that he could take time and move it to and fro. Urkana was intended to restore the lake algae to full health, showing that he was the one to bring light. Kadish placed linking books to the Annonay Cathedral and Urkana in the Great Tree Pub after renovating the pub itself. He made an intricate puzzle known as the Path of the Shell that blocked off access to the Great Tree sculpture the pub took its name from. Kadish boasted that he was the only person able to solve the puzzle, and said that the solution was obvious to anyone who had read the writings of the Watcher. He even scattered references to passages from words in his ages as clues, and those references were later translated into English by Yisha. Kadish wrote a private age called Tolesa around the year 9395, or 1739 on the surface. Approximately 5 years later, he fled to it during the events of the fall of Denis. He died there, alone and without hope. There was a linking book to his gallery in Agra in the vault next to him, but in his final letter, which can be found lying next to his body, he wrote, "There is a linking book here, but I will not leave. I have decided this. I am here with all I could desire. No one can take it from me. I will die here with it all." Yisha wrote comments in the margin of the death note in which he expressed her disbelief that a man like Kadish would end that way. It seemed that she got an idea and eventually wrote another instance of Tolesa. In that version of the age, Kadish's body and most of his treasure is gone, and she left other scraps of paper scattered around. On them she wrote, "I have conquered the stream. These streams said to flow of their own will now flow where I direct. These are the powers of gods, and now I have this power." And she also wrote, "I've saved his life." Those words have caused explorers to speculate about their meaning. Most believe that it means she went back in time to rescue Kadish, and there is even an idea that she took him for Tolesa back to the Denis Cavern during the time when she was learning the art from her mentor, Callum. This theory proposes that Kadish was the man who murdered Callum. This is a theory which has no evidence to support it, however, and has logical excuse me, I'm really not able to talk today. But it has logical inconsistencies that I'll be discussing later. That brings us to the gallery where we are now. Kadish had a major personality quirk. He couldn't make a lock that wasn't a puzzle, and he couldn't make a puzzle without leaving clues to it somewhere. Kadish was fascinated by the prophecies of Words of the Watcher and wanted to be the grower. So he spent a great deal of time and energy and money attempting to fulfill those conditions. His successful career in the Guild of Writers meant that he had the money to spend. The gallery around us was built as a showplace for Denis and Arotanti, which means outsiders, artwork. He named it the Kadish Gallery, and it became an overnight hit when it opened. In the end, though, it was another one of his tricks. The artwork was indeed made by Denis and Arotanti craftsmen, but Kadish commissioned all of it to his own specifications to serve a specific purpose. It was a shrine of clues to puzzles in the various ages that he had written. It delighted him that no one in Denis ever figured that out, considering how popular the exhibits were. When Kadish was fleeing from the poison gas and plague released by Agaeris and the Ovis to destroy Denis, the gallery was the first place he went. After arriving here, he didn't want anyone to reach his linking book to Tolesa after him, so he sabotaged the power conduits that operated the doors. Those doors remained inoperable until the DRC finally repaired them around sometime around 2005, or between 2005 and 2007. We're not sure of the exact date that they were restored. The gallery was designated City Interior Number 80 by the DRC, and when you enter it from the street, you take a fairly sharp turn to the west. This building is a two-story structure contained in a ridge of tall stalagmites that form a peninsula off the main island of Agura. It intrudes on the space behind the two doors west of the gallery on the Canyon Mall, which means that their interiors are probably stacked either above or below the gallery. There is no room for them to be on the same level. As you look around the gallery, you will see Denis writing along the top edge of the walls. That text reads, Ratimullah Kadish, and is repeated continuously. That is translates as the Gallery of Kadish. For those who might be interested in knowing how that sentence is constructed, re is a prefix that serves the same purpose as the. Och is a suffix or standalone word that means of, as in belonging to. Timmel means gallery. On the second level, just inside the entrance, there's a circular balcony with a dome above it that resembles a night sky. Unfortunately, we don't know what sky the dome represents or if it's imaginary. But given Kadish's tendencies when he wrote or built things, it's possible that it might represent part of the night sky of Garternay. I won't discuss the artwork found here, since that's something each explorer needs to examine for him or herself. Do we have, one other thing I wanted to mention. There is a hidden room here in the gallery. It's found underneath the balcony just inside the entrance from the canyon. It's a semicircular room and there are no doors into it. In it, the same Denis writing that can be seen near the ceiling in the rest of the building runs along the baseboards. It is quite likely that the room was created in error during construction. It would have been an easy oversight when the balcony was installed for the space below it to be left inaccessible due to an oversight in the building plans. But an accident or not, given that most of the clues to Kadish's puzzles depend on things that are either missing or hidden, it seems highly appropriate that the building containing them would have a hidden room. Do we have any questions about anything covered up to this point?
Jamie had a question. I need to scroll up to it. He asked it a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
He asked, is the offline game version of the puzzle canon?
The offline version of this is definitely canon, and actually is set in a time before 2005 when the doors had not yet been restored by the DRC. That's why they cannot be opened. The power was cut to them by Kadish, and he had never and the DRC hadn't gotten to fixing them yet.
Oh, apparently Jamie was referring to the Great Tree.
Okay, then what was that question again?
If the Great Tree puzzle is canon, I think is what he's asking, right, Jamie?
Oh, of course. It was Yisha who decided to change things, but the path of the shell, as written by Kadish, was the one that what did indeed lead to the Great Tree sculpture.
Yeah, I think apparently he's referring to the 15-minute adjustment that was made to make the, I guess we're going out of character here. It has to do with probably the 15 minutes, the alteration that has to do with the fact that the offline game is solo as opposed to...
Oh, if you're... we're not going to talk about anything to do with Annonay or Urkana until we run those tours, which we have not done yet. So I'm not going to give that away today. And then as far as the book to Chiso Prenev, that is very definitely a recent addition. They cleared out one of the rooms where there had been, I believe, seating, one of the seating nooks for private conversations or games, was cleared out in order to add the pedestal for that particular book. And that, of course, was done just a few months ago. Oh, hello, Darlene. Darlene Watson has joined us. Okay, were there any other questions that I missed?
I don't see any.
Okay. In that case, we are ready to move on. So if everyone will private message to the bot the word link, we'll go to our next stop.
Oh, Spatial K has a question.
Okay.
Spatial, if you could please retype your question after we get to Kadish.
So the steps. I'm actually a little confused as to where I'm standing at the moment. Oh, there's the puzzle, so the steps are over this way.
Alrighty, looks like everyone's there except for me. I'll be there in a second.
Everyone's familiar with this room, so if you don't mind, we're going to walk out of here and over to the Lincoln area at the beginning of the age.
So we're all heading downstairs towards the Lincoln point, right?
That's correct. That's where I had actually had intended to be to begin with. Now let's see, where is... What? It should be over here somewhere. Oh, is it right next to me? No? Hee. Ah, here it is. Okay.
And Spatial K retyped her question. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
She's asking, are all ages contemporaneous with each other?
Absolutely
the
not.
Age implies a different time. No? Okay.
Now, all of the ages that were written by Kadish would have been done over a time during his lifetime, of course. Urkana, however, would have would probably have predated him. I have no doubt that it would have been in the hands of the Guild of Caterers for a number of generations, although we don't know exactly when it was written. But all of the ages that he wrote, such as the Cathedral, Anone, and whatever he did for the Guild of Writers, those were all things that, of course, would have been written within 100 years of each other because of his lifespan. And as far as other things go, to give you an example, Kadish lived in, I believe I said around 9,500 or so, or something like that, without scrolling back up in my notes. But to give you an example, most of the garden ages that we use nowadays were written in around Denis year 8300, or Denis century 8300.
Well, she's clarifying her.
Okay,
her
yeah, I
question.
see that. Sorry, what I meant was we are all in the same timeline when we beam in. That depends. Again, instancing can get complicated and sometimes does involve a bit of time travel, depending on where you're going. So the time and space can be a slippery concept when you start instancing. To a certain extent, there is, Jamie. He's asking, is there time travel in the game? In Myst 5, there very definitely is. The Baro have a certain amount of control over time, and that is taken advantage of in that game. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started on what we have to say here. When Yisha included Tolesa in the Path of the Hand, she used it to convince explorers that the Denis were scoundrels who hoarded wealth greedily. Let's go ahead and first off, she introduced Tolesa in Relto in one of her quotes from the prophecies of Urpa, which went... Excuse me while I bring up this
Only
circle.
the way a man
There we go.
is when he is hidden is how he is. A shallow glimpse can deceive. Look deep, ponder, and recognize all that is hidden.
And that was her setup. And then when we get to the Baro caves, she had this to say.
The bones of Guildmaster Kadish speak louder than words. His bones are the bones of Denis. He clung to the teachings of good King Negan, who required good citizens to cling to their treasure. This Kadish you have seen would not give back, would not return, would not let go. He had long been one of the wealthiest of the Denis, owning more than he could possibly make use of. He built ages to protect the extra, and when the fall came, he clung to his possessions over all else. And so you see only death in his vault. Extravagant death. It is an image of Denis.
Her words, of course, were a distortion of the truth. While Kadish had made Tolesa to keep his treasure safe, he was not shy about spending it to entertain at parties. However, to him, his wealth was a mark of his success and accomplishments, and in the end, he chose to stay with it and die rather than abandon it for an uncertain fate. Now, what of the King Negan she spoke of? Negan ruled Denis from the year 2356 to 2533, and he was considered to be a good king. He was a patron of the fine arts and did much to encourage their growth. He was the ruler who elevated the Guild of Miners to the to become one of the 18 major guilds, and split the former Guild of Fine Arts up into the minor guilds of sculptors, artists, actors, and musicians. That split encouraged growth in the mining industry and the fine arts, two major causes Negan championed throughout his reign. That move was strongly supported by the artistic community, because having their own guild leaders financing and support was excellent for the growth of their respective disciplines. Negan was a direct influence for Kadish. He was the king who had the first guild hall built atop the tomb of the great king. And in the main council chamber, he constructed a massive treasure vault that was protected by puzzles of a sort. And I have no doubt that Negan's vault in the guild hall was a direct influence on Kadish's decisions when building Tolesa. Yisha was deceptive when she said that Negan required people to cling to their treasure. What Negan taught the people of Denis was to put away money and save it, not for themselves, but for the sake of future generations of their family, that they might have better lives than their ancestors. Tolesa was written by Kadish after he made a fortune as a guildmaster. When he parted ways with the guild, he of course purchased several properties around the caverns. And then he spent much of his time entertaining Denis upper-class citizens. This age was written around the year 9395, or 1739 on the surface, although the exact date is not known. Gin, the father of Atris, would have been around 3 years old at the time it was constructed. Tolesa is a private age that served, of course, as a massive security vault for Kadish's wealth. In fact, the name Kadish Tolesa means Kadish sealed place in Denis. In that language, the term Tolesa has the connotation of a bank vault or a walk-in safe. This age is comprised of two main sections, a dense forest of massive trees and a series of underground chambers that end in a spherical cavern. The forest section has many birds that can be heard up in the canopy, including woodpeckers. There are also frogs that can be heard occasionally that sound much like the etrums of the Age of Riven. The surface of Tolesa is a maze of giant trees. The trees themselves have characteristics like the giant eucalyptus trees of Australia and Tasmania, and the leaves that fall to the forest floor closely resemble those of the Eucalyptus regnans myrticea leaves. It is probable that the trees that we see later from the vista are the top of the same kind of tree. In Australia and Tasmania, the trees are called by various names, including giant ash, mountain ash, Victorian ash, swamp gum, Tasmanian oak, or stringy gum. While gum trees are members of the eucalyptus family and the names fit, ash trees and oak trees, of course, are unrelated species, so many of the names are not exactly accurate descriptions. It has been suggested that some Eucalyptus regnans trees, such as the ones around us, have been the tallest trees in recorded history, taller even than the coastal redwoods or sequoia trees found in the United States. This cannot be verified because the sad fact is that the Australian logging industry has cut down all of the trees that might have been contenders for the titles of tallest in the world. There is one tree in particular that estimates figure may have been the tallest tree to ever live, and it was destroyed for no reason other than to make 75 tons worth of newspaper. In the room where we first arrived, we find the first of Kadish's telescope puzzles. 3 telescopes make up the first puzzle that had to be solved before a visitor continued the journey through the age. A linking book to the gallery can be found in that room with the first telescope. However, Kadish was too subtle to place a book tying the museum to Tolesa and vice versa. It is thought that the book from the gallery to Tolesa was left behind when Kadish was escaping from the fall of Denis. It's unknown whether or not he had the book from the first telescope to the gallery in place at that time, or if Yisha placed it there. But given the secret, his nature, it's more likely that Yisha was the one who placed that book. This was a common tactic for her. She always modified the ages she used for her quests and left linking books and borrow stones in them. And like a graffiti artist, she often signed the age with her monogram to show that she'd altered them. In fact, in several ages, her monogram appears more than one time. So let's go ahead and... I'm sorry, I forgot to write in my notes here. By the way, this was an official age. It was written by Kadish and approved by the Guild of Maintainers. The reason we know that is right next to me. If you look at the ground near my feet, let's see where... Right back here. I am now facing the Maintainer's mark that was placed here by the Guild of Maintainers when this age received official approval from them. Now, having pointed that out, we're now going to continue along the trip that Kadish would have walked through when he was escaping from the fall. So having solved the first telescope puzzle, which of course, all the puzzles in here, by the way, would have been constructed for him, since he was not a construction engineer himself. Instead, he would have set the combinations on the puzzles after they had been built. So he then, of course, walked over here to the second telescope puzzle and put in the solution for that as well. Whereupon he would have gone to the third telescope puzzle and put in the solution for that. People who've been on the tour before will will now know about this. But if you for those who may have just joined us for the first time, if you come here to the third telescope puzzle and stand on the opposite side from where you enter the combination, you will see the only sign of flowing water in this age. There is a small fountain at the base of the telescope. Whether you think of that as being a nice place to get a drink before continuing, or a public urinal, is something I'll leave to your own devices.
Oh dear. I don't see a drain.
Oh, the water's going somewhere, or else it'd be spilling over the floor. The question is it constantly flowing, or is it recirculating? Yeah. That's where if you decide to drink from it, you're taking your chances. Yeah. Having solved all of the telescope puzzles, he would have opened up the door here, which is closed at the moment. Murphac, can you open up the door here, please?
By the way, the leaves are in this age are kickable.
Shiloh is asking whether or not the Denis would have written their ages with potable water, and the answer to that is yes. It was part of the Denis rules that they would make their ages as safe as humanly possible, and the job of the Guild of Maintainers and the Guild of Healers was to then go in and examine those ages to ensure that there was nothing that would be harmful in them before they were approved for use. Having walked through the door, there is, Kadish has a switch on the far side, which he would have pressed to close the door behind him. Doing so resets the puzzle and ensures that just in case he was followed, regardless of sabotaging the doors of the gallery, that anyone who was behind him would not have been able to follow without knowing the solution to the telescope puzzle. Let's see. And now that we are on the other side, go ahead
Wait
and...
for me, please.
Okay.
I was herding cats, make sure everyone
Well,
I know
yeah.
what you're about to do.
Yeah. Of course, you can always find Larry to get to this side now.
Right.
Kadish, of course, as I was just mentioning, would have closed the door behind him to ensure that he was not followed. So if someone over near the switch, such as would care to press that button, we will do the same. It may be that when Murphac opened the door, he used a non-standard method. Okay, in that case, we will assume that we have closed the door behind us, as Kadish did before us. And continue on to the next stage. The room that we come to next is the second puzzle that was constructed for Kadish, and this is called the Moon Room. This is partly because of the nature of the light, but also if you look at the chandelier in the center, it is made up of a number of moon-shaped semicircles. I assume that there must have been some sort of a camera system which was pointed at the floor in order for the pattern to be detected and therefore by activate the way out. When you get down to the bottom, and let's head down there now. Aaron, no. The room is not pressure activated. It is actually done by the pattern of light and shadow. And for that to work, I would presume that there's probably a camera somewhere around here, although that is just a guess. One of the first things, though, that you will notice what people notice when they come down to this room is that there is a door on the far side. However, we do not know what this door was for. It may just be a dummy intended to deceive. It may go into some sort of maintenance area. It might be where the machinery is controlled. It might be a broom closet for all I know. And there's even the possibility that it may just open up onto a blank slab of paving stone like the walls around us. However, it was typical of Kadish that he would have what looked like an obvious way to proceed that you could not open. In any case, having solved the light puzzle in order to open up the staircase down to the next section, that's where Kadish went, and that is where we are going. Speaking out of character for a moment, the far side of that door is unmodeled, so if you were to use bot commands to go to the other side, there is literally nothing there. Is everyone through, Susan?
I will go check.
I see one person coming along.
Oh, they're coming.
Yep. Kadish, of course, having gotten to this point, would have then pressed the button to close, to seal this puzzle behind him again. So if someone over there will press that button, we will do the same. And now we'll proceed to the next stop. By the way, the reason why we're closing the doors behind us is so that you can all see the mechanisms working in case you've never stopped and watched them before. The next area that we're heading toward is called the Vista. And this here, we will see our first sign of life. Actually, the only sign of life when you stop to think about it. I am standing right now at the staircase down into the vista, and there is and also over at the one up to the pyramid. If you look here, you will see a little firefly bouncing around in the air, minding his own business. There is another firefly at the other staircase doing the same. And these are the only two living creatures that we see in this age. If you come over here to the edge of the platform that we're standing on, the vista is the only part of Tolesa where we can see a little of the world outside the trees. The vista is a shelf partway up a cliff face. It overlooks a large, mysterious area that cannot be seen due to what appears to be either fog or a layer of thick clouds. All we can see are two types of giant tree. Note that the trees in the distance have a differently shaped canopy than the ones that are closer to the shelf. The two types of trees, which are unidentified, these two tree types are unidentified, although one is probably the same type of tree that surrounded us on our way here. That also leads to the guess that the other type of tree is also a giant eucalyptus variety, although I was unable to verify that. Given that giant eucalyptus trees can grow nearly a mile high, the ones in the distance allow an estimate of the height of the shelf. My guess is that we are about 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile above the ground at the base of those trees. The vista also has a feature that cannot be seen all the time. There's a sun visible through the clouds towards the left-hand end of the shelf, and the clouds occasionally thin out enough to show that there is either a moon with its own atmosphere or a twin planet visible in the sky nearby. It's also possible that we might be on a moon of that planet. I don't know. I don't believe that Relto is bottomless, Susan, since we are up on plateaus there. I assume that, speaking out of character for a moment, by the way, Relto was based on geology on the coastline of Washington State. So the chances are there is a ground below the fog that you see in Relto. Okay, what time is it? 1 o'clock? Okay. At some point, we will lay down a on-lake effect so that you can run around outside here. But for the moment, I think, given the time consideration, we should continue from here.
I don't think the Sage has a day-night cycle, because I don't think I've ever seen the sun move.
We do seem to be tidally locked since we've never seen any variation on that. And that was probably a requirement that Kadish wrote into the age, considering that the next puzzle depends on that sun being in the exact same position. Oh, Murphak is playing around with the lighting effects to make the other planet or moon or whatever it is more visible. Oh, wow, there's a good look.
Who thinks this is the most beautiful part of Kadish?
It's one of the more beautiful parts of the game, period. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on to the pyramid puzzle. Now, those of you who went inside, please come back outside for a moment. This area is most commonly called the pyramid puzzle because of the shape of the building. However, it's also called the sun room, to go along with the moon room that we saw previously. If you will all look up at the top of the building, the ball that you see at the top is a prism structure which is designed to rotate and bring light into the building. Murphak, if you would operate the puzzle so that that ball rotates so we can see it moving. Those who play solo will never see this sight. So please look up at the top of the building, yes. This is I believe, the closed position, so that, and there we have better light. So you will notice that the ball itself, it looks featureless. Murphak, please turn it back on. When it rotates, a lens then comes into position looking directly at the sun. And that matches up with a prism down into the room itself to shine light on the floor. The linking book at the library, excuse me, that's a Barrow stone, not a linking book, and that is completely unexplained. No one. Unless it was intended by Cyan for you to activate the puzzle or the ball mechanism, then link over there and come through so that you could see it up close. I have no idea why they put it there, because it serves no other purpose. But there is other than maybe seeing that ball up close, there is absolutely nothing to do once you've linked through it.
Larry, someone is asking about these half-circle structures. For example, behind us, these are just decorations, correct?
Correct. They're just there to make the age look pretty. Kadish had those built. Basically because he liked the way they looked. When we go inside the building...
should we mention, Larry, that, well, I'll just mention it. There used to be a door here that would slide, I guess, up and down. Is that correct?
No, you're thinking of the library. The library itself had doors, and also the museum on Agra had doors that open. Actually, I think it was the library door that the museum door that opened up and down.
Yeah, I think there's one here too. If someone wants to come back and
I don't
use
remember.
Mirabot to look
Yeah,
under there.
I don't remember there ever being one. When you come inside the building, the first thing you will see is that Kadish tried to disguise the nature of this puzzle by putting in multiple doors. Again, none of them apparently lead anywhere. They were just there to deceive. Murphak, if you will warp us down to the tunnel at the bottom of this room place. We will not use the elevator. But before we go, he's going to give you a better look at the room by changing the light. Oh, that's true. If you look up, you can see the bottom of the ball in the ceiling. And it's moving right now, and there is the bottom lens in position. Okay. We are now in the passageway out of the sun puzzle. And since the mechanism is already disabled behind us, we'll just continue to the next room. The next puzzle, of course, is called the Pillar Room for obvious reasons. This room is operated by a series of counterweights, which of course are used to raise and lower the pillars in the center of the room. Everyone who has, of course, played the game through is familiar with how this room operates, and for the purpose of this tour, there's really no point in us doing the same. So I'm going to request Murphak to just teleport us up to the top of it. Because the last thing that we need to do is to have people trying to climb the ladders in here with such a large group. And with this, we arrive in the home stretch of Kadish's journey. Having disabled everything behind him, he was in sight of his goal, which was his vault. The vault of itself is suspended in the middle of this large spherical chamber by means of logs from trees harvested outside from the outside of the age. For those who feel adventurous on their own time, by the way, as far as I know, every last one of those logs are solid. In other words, if you can get to them, you can walk on them.
Would Kadish have ever led tours through here?
No. This was his private vault. This is where he stored his wealth. So if he ever brought a visitor here, I am unaware of it. Needless to say, the walkway itself has deteriorated. It used to have safety rails, and in certain places was much wider than it is now. Oops. Why am I stuck?
They look like tree branches to me, Quicksilver.
For some reason, we seem to be stuck here on the edge here. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay. The support pillars, yeah, I thought they were stone or metal myself when I first saw them, but they are trees. Or logs, I should say. And now we come to Kadish's final destination, the vault itself. The interior of the vault contained most of his liquid assets and a selection of artwork and textiles that he valued. There is one interesting anomaly. To the left, as you enter the vault, there is a painting of scenery from Teledon. That is right over here. It appears to be an earlier version of a view shown in a painting in the Baron's office, and that was collected by Douglas Sharper. Kadish has no known association with Teledon, so why this is in his treasury is a mystery. Note that in this painting, there is a work platform around the mushroom that we can see. But the energy tower is missing. So it's strange that they had already put up the platform to work on that mushroom when the rest of the structure, or many of the other structures, are missing. However, in that painting, you can see what looks like the figure of a man standing on one of the catwalks. The room itself has a great many gold coins lying around. Kadish had quite a fortune, and you can see it lying in piles on the floor, suspended from the walls and support beams and hammocks of cloth, and in general getting underfoot about everywhere you go. This is the only place that I know of where Denis coins can be found. The obverse of the coins have the profile of a man, but it is not known who he was. Given that the coins were probably minted centuries after the abdication of King Kurith, it might be the image of a man who was important to Denis for other reasons than being a monarch. There is one coin that shows the reverse, and that appears to be the figure of a man sitting on horseback. Unfortunately, none of the text on the coins can be read. When Agaris and Vovis attacked the caverns with a mix of poison gas and deadly bacteria in the event called the Fall of Denis, people tried to flee to places of safety. It was mostly futile. Those that survived the gas would eventually died from the bacterial infection and served as carriers to infect others. Agaris and Vovis even passed infected bodies through linking books to spread the bacteria to all of the ages they could. Only a fraction of the Denis people survived, mostly those who were in other ages, or who managed to flee before the cloud reached them, and who managed to disable their linking books in time. They could not return for many years, and it wasn't until Atris and Catherine searched for them that the survivors of Denis were reunited and began the job of burying the remains of the victims. Kadish had fled here, the safest place he knew, and he didn't know at that time that he was already as good as dead. When he discovered that he was doomed, he decided to die here, surrounded by his treasure, and left a letter behind. This is a translation of it, although it's not precise because many of the words in the note have not yet been positively deciphered. However, the gist of the message was, "I have met my end. Mortality overcomes me. I see it. It is waiting, watching for my soul to depart. Its acquisitions surpass my own. There is a linking book here, but I will not leave. I have decided this. I am here with all I could desire. No one can take it from me. I will die here with it all. This place is hidden and will remain hidden. If these words are found anyway, remember that I did not surrender. I did not die with nothing. I died with everything. Look at my possessions. They belong to me and will be with me forever." Looking at the question, the chat, I just noticed that Shiloh is asking if he died of the bacteria and not hunger or thirst. That's unknown. It depends on whether or not he was touched by it before he made it to the gallery. But on the other hand, considering that most people were killed almost instantly by the poison gas, the chances are that he did die of hunger or thirst. Most likely thirst.
Well, I do notice he appears to be reaching towards the Kadish gallery linking book.
The thing about that is that it may have been last-second thoughts as he was lying there weakened, but the fact is that he never did actually touch it, even if he was reaching towards it. Yisha identified strongly with Kadish, since, like her, he thought he was the grower of Denis prophecy. And she couldn't believe that he wrote those words and scribbled her own feelings on his death note. Her words read, "Could he ever realize such failure? What kind of end is this? Impossible unless..." Finally, unable to accept such an anticlimactic ending for Kadish, Yisha wrote an alternate version of his vault. It's unknown whether or not it is an entirely different age or simply a different instance of this version of Tolesa. Usually when you write an age, it links to something close to what you have described, but not exactly, which is to say that there would have been minor differences. In an instance, however, Yisha was often able to make duplicates of existing ages. So which way this falls is not something that I know the answer to. The alternate vault is separated from the rest of Kadish Tolesa. Yisha collapsed part of the walkway from the vault to the tunnel system. It's also possible to see that in this version of Tolesa, or her version, she did not include her portal to the Rudina Baro cave. In the alternate vault, Yisha left behind scraps of paper. On one, she claimed that she saved his life, without actually saying who his was, but it implies that it was that of Kadish. On another, she claims to have the power of gods. I take that as a sign of her advancing insanity. She might have begun to lose her mind when her beloved mentor Callum was murdered, and she avenged him, or it could even have started when her older brother Surus trapped her mind in the dream age of Serenia. One can only guess. But she left behind many clues to show that her mental state wasn't the best. And in her speeches in the Rudina Baro cave, she openly admits that she had been seduced into arrogance by her own power. The notes in the alternate vault read, "Father could only move pages with his words, but I could move books. I have," and then it trails off. "I have conquered the stream. These streams set to flow of their own will now flow where I direct." The third paper says, "These are the powers of gods, and I now have this power." And the final one, "I've saved his life." At one time in the past, in the alternate vault, you could find butterflies fluttering around that are called Crimson Kadish because of the fact that they were found in the vault. However, those butterflies are not native to Kadish Tolesa. Instead, they come from an age called Lakian. But because they were first discovered by the explorers here, they were named after Kadish. I believe that Yisha might have written them into this vault because Kadish was fond of the arena games that were held in Lakian. Yisha left behind a Relto page that sends some of those butterflies to your Relto as a reminder of Kadish's story. And that pretty much ends the tour, so I will now open it up for any questions that I might have missed or any that anyone might have for me at this point.
Well, I'm standing next to a tall, bronzish statue. Do we happen to know who this depicts?
I don't believe there are any statues in this room, although I might be mistaken on that.
Where I am.
But there are several sets of armor lying around, as well as weapons and shields.
Yeah, if you take a look where I am over here, I'm jumping up and down.
Hang on a sec. Oh, there you are. You're standing next to another copy of the painting from Teledon, but not somewhere else. Okay, oh, there you are. Yeah, that I don't believe. Oh, I see. That is some sort of a sculpture, but honestly, I don't see a face on it. So your guess is as good as mine. but that's probably an abstract piece. And it is possible that that's just a dummy for holding armor. By the way, just in case you weren't along when we did the tour of Garrison, this is not the only appearance that we ever see of Kadish. His body here on the floor was intentional, and the model... Oh, here's another one over here. Excuse me, to interrupt myself. Here's another one of those things over here, Susan. And yes, this is not a statue. It's a dummy of some sort. But the body of Kadish was repurposed in Garrison as one of the prisoners whose remains that you find in the prison area of Garrison 2. And that's not a rug over him. That is actually the remains of his clothing. He was wearing a robe.
Are the Dunny about the same height as we are?
They were actually a little bit taller. I think that they averaged upwards of 7 feet.
And Kadish looks pretty short.
He isn't stretched out, so kind of hard to say. Now, admittedly, saying that he was that they were tall is what's written in the notebooks. As far as their depiction in artwork goes, that's another story. Over in the stream chat, it's noted that he died with his boots on, but not his pants. And admittedly, this was a vault for where nobody else ever came. So if he didn't want to wear pants here, that was his prerogative.
Now you may have addressed this earlier, but if there was, since there's a linking book, I'm thinking about this. The linking book, I guess, from the Kadish gallery to Kadish, links to the link endpoint that we go to, and yet this linking book here leads back to the.
Actually,
gallery.
no. That book from the Kadish gallery goes to the first scope puzzle, not to the actual link endpoint. And that's, but the thing is that would have been more than likely a book that Kadish carried with him. And since a Denis book cannot go with you when you link, it would have been left behind in the gallery, which is why he disabled the doors.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say that gallery, I mean, he would have had to secure that to prevent people from coming here.
Right. So it was not a fixture of the gallery during his time. It was he left it there on the last time he passed through, when he was escaping from Denis. Yisha, one of the Umo is of course pointing out that he didn't know that Yisha was insane, which she was. However, it's one of the things that really makes Yisha a fascinating person to study, because she was highly flawed. She had grown up without other children to play with, but was a happy child regardless, who was doted on by her parents, and whom she thought her older brothers also loved. And then when she was, before she even became a teenager, her brothers betrayed her, and her next older brother, Cirrus, actually invaded her mind and tried to take her body away from her. So that, of course, was a very, very nasty thing to have happen to you from a person you trusted. Later on, of course, and then he had attacked her mind, so that would have caused some damage just by itself. Later on, she went on a journey of self-discovery when she was old enough. And during that time, she came across a Denis writer named Callum, who had been exploring in the library on Agra Island. And she formed a close relationship with him as student and mentor, although at times their roles reversed, because she had learned things from her parents that no Denis would have ever dreamed of trying, whereas he knew all of the subtleties of thousands and thousands of years of Denis writing and was teaching her. So their mentor-student relationship became a very close friendship after an initially rocky start. When Calum was murdered because another Denis writer found them and thought that what they were doing was heresy, this basically that was kind of the last straw for Yisha, and it kind of tipped her over the edge. It was around the time just before Callum's death that she discovered the Barro, and as a result of his murder, she became fixated with them, and from then on, she would have done anything that was necessary in order to save the Barro. It became the entire focus of her life. And it wasn't until Dr. Richard Watson took on the quest for the tablet that was binding the Barro to Denis that she was ever finally to become free of her obsession. And in that, if you've seen the results of that, the feeling of being freed from a burden was palpable. She honestly thought that you could see the pressure lifting off of her. I mentioned that as a child she had been doted on and treated kindly by her parents. But that's only part of the story. From her parents, she was under a tremendous amount of pressure because Atris in particular is the one who planted the idea that she would become the grower in her head. If you've ever read Words of the Watcher, Atris's nickname for Yisha was Desert Bird. And that's actually a direct quote from Words of the Watcher. So he was putting pressure on her to save Denis before she was even a teenager. So yeah, if you ever take it into your head, look up the character of Isha, and of course my website floristica.com/hpotd. Let me write that out in the game chat. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I just wrote that to Mirrorbot. Okay, here we go. floristica.com/hpotd. And I'll do that, and I'll also write it in the stream chat.
Someone had also asked about the weapons. Do we know how the Dunny fought wars, or were these weapons used in those arena games or ceremonially?
No, they definitely fought many wars over their history. The Pinto War is one of the more famous one, but there were quite a few others. And that the weapons here mostly would have been kept for their because they had some sort of historical significance or some sort of value. They are in a vault after all. But something that I've never been able to say for one thing or another, but is mentioned in the novels, is that at the end, before the fall of Denis, they did have guns. So the weapons in here would have probably been kept here for their historical value, rather than because they were active weapons. Now, getting back to the other thing, if you go to my website and look, there is a category called the People of Denis, and I do have a fairly extensive write-up of Yisha in that section.
On your website, do you happen to have an up-close picture of the coins?
Yes, I do.
Someone was okay, because someone was asking about how you know what the pattern is on the coins.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I even have an out of character. Somebody these were actually taken, made up of pictures of a real British coin, and we know which one it was. So we actually have it. So there is a picture of the real coin, not just the ones in the game.
Does anyone else have any questions for Larry, who has an answer for everything? Holy smokes.
I don't always guarantee that they're the right answers. Okay. In any case, so that is basically the end of today's tour. And I will thank you all for coming along and being patient with me while I led you through it.
Well, let's all give Larry and Mirfak a huge round of applause.
Now, don't go away just yet, by the way, because as I mentioned, Murfak's going to do some on-leg effects and maybe some other things for us. So you can run around and look at the place.
And if I could make a few announcements, please.
Mm-hmm.
Our next tour will be scheduled for Saturday, February 13th. Each regularly scheduled tour is the second Saturday of each month. On the first Saturday of each month during the All Guilds meeting, I always confirm the next tour. Also, if Mina Sunda is still here, do you have any announcements to make about events, Cavern events? And while she is responding to that, I will look up the schedule posted by the Guild of Messengers.
Okay, and while you're doing that, the question was asked about the giant message behind the vault building. When you look at the death note of Kadish lying on the floor, what you're seeing is that big message behind the building. That is the actual readable copy. That comes up in in the foreground when you click on the death note.
I'm scrolling through the events. It looks like today at 1400 key time is Arte's Story Night in Sano's Hood, TSAHNO''S Hood. At 1600 key time is Karaoke Party in the new Guild of Messengers pub. That's access through the Watchers pub. And then once again tonight at 2330 key time is the second version of Arte's Story Night in Sano's Hood.
And that should be everything. So, Murphak, if you would please. Of course, my game just crashed. Let's restart that and get back to you. While I'm restarting the game, if you look at the stream, by the way, the skeleton that I have as background this month is called a Choru, and this was originally going to be part of Edergura. However, it didn't actually make it into it.
Rawa's mama, thank you so much for joining us again. And give Rawa our best wishes and hugs. And I just got a call stack error.
Yeah, I did too. So it may be that when Murphak was modifying the game, something happened.
All right, I'm signing off now. We'll see you all next month. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Murphak. And thanks, everyone, for coming.
Okay. In any case, we'll see. I'm going back in because I want to see whatever it is that Murphak does. Okay. And there's the bot. Okay. Now remember that once you get back to the age, if you crashed, click PM the letter W to the bot, and it will you'll move to wherever it is, which is in the middle of the air out over the vista, so you can run around out here. Note that something to bear in mind is that this on-lake effect is going to be much larger than the area that where we are right now. So don't feel like you have to stay here. You can run around just about everywhere, at least until you reach the end of whichever map he's using as the walkable surface. It's either going to be the Cleft Desert or Minkata. So there is going to be an end to it eventually, but it's a pretty big area. Actually, that's something I hadn't realized before. What I'm looking at the moment is I'm seeing the pyramid, part of the pyramid puzzle, and the corridor out to the vault. And the vault is actually higher up than the pyramid, which is something I hadn't realized before. If you want to see what I'm seeing, of course, you can say find Larry to the bot. Okay, I've just moved over to the back end of the vault so that you can see the giant copy of the Death Note if you want a link to me using Find Larry. That's strange. The writing was on it a moment ago, and it seems to have disappeared on me. Oh, there it is. As I see, it was because Murphac had changed the lighting. Murphac just put this Jalak pillar here so that we can walk up and see it closer. The note that's inside the vault itself, lying next to Kadish, is a thumbnail. So it's a much smaller picture, and if blown up, would not be readable. So they have this giant copy back here, and when you click on the note, it brings it into, of course, your view. And this copy, being much larger, can be clearly read. By the way, the signature on this reads Shora Telnava Kadish, which of course means farewell, Guildmaster Kadish. Oops. Right now, I am in the moon room, looking at the chandelier. No problem, Kay. Okay, that's correct. When you are pressing the buttons, you're changing the way the moon arcs in that chandelier change so that they cast different shadows on the floor. Okay, I now know that he is using the cleft desert as the walkable surface, or at least one of them, because I have the outline of the cleft in front of me. Oh, we've also got Teledon mixed in here, huh? I think we've also got Darano in here, don't we? If you want to find Larry, this is quite a confusing little mixture of ages. Zandy's trailer shows up in the oddest places. Okay, at this point I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. You all are free to stick around and play. I have a person I'm expecting to show up at pretty much any time now, so I've got to go. So thank you all again for coming. And